So that's the point. Okay, friends, so let's go to multi-brand retail trading. The wave continues. So FDI at 51% under approval rules, and there are several conditions, including FDI of 100 million. Again, 30% from local sourcing from small industry, and 50% foreign investment to be in back-end infrastructure. Again, there is so much unclarity on so many terminology used. There is again a recent half one where few of the states have reversed their consent to allow FDRT in their state. And now the government has approached the law ministry as to whether such a reversal is a permissible, under the India regulation. Again, retail trade through e-commerce not permitted. Again, this is one of the heartburn over here. My friends, pharmaceutical sector, again one of the very important sector which has received vast FDI over the last so many years. There is no clear guidance on what is brownfield and what are the approval parameters. In spite of this policy now coming in for more than a couple of years, there is absolutely no clarification from the authority as to what do you mean brownfield, existing company, existing acquisition, slum sale, share acquisition, unit acquisition. Obviously you understand in general that it is acquisition under M&A, mergers and acquisition, or slum sale or a business acquisition, but I think there is a high time that there is some clarity given in a direct form. There are some old FIPP or DIPP publication which deemed to define brownfield, but there is no specific definition or clarification in the current circulars or policy the way it ought to be. And recently there is a press note 1 which came on 8th January 2014 which has stipulated that in the approval for brownfield there would be payment, if there is a payment for non-compete, then that non-compete payment will only be allowed subject to certain conditions. That means now they want to even restrict the Indian sellers in taking on certain obligations like not competing with the foreign acquirer on those products or those segments. That is something which the government is not very happy about. They seem to believe that this will increase the dependency of Indian medicines on the multinational and increase the prices and create other complications, which honestly I don't know how right that kind of fear factor is. And then there is also a condition, another condition which has come in very discreetly through this press note 1 of 2014, the 8th January, is that a government can incorporate condition in brownfield cases at the time of grounding approach. That means government has now got the power to stipulate any damn condition that it believes vis-a-vis that brownfield acquisition. And this is again pretty surprising because there was some attempt by DIPP earlier to put some conditionalities while granting the approval, and the cabinet, the Union cabinet had rejected such kind of, but apparently it seems they've been able to clear that hurdle. And now we really need to watch what are the kind of conditions that government would like to put in over here. They've covered non-compete. And now they've said any other conditions. So we really don't know what kind of conditions that you could be subject to when you approach FIPP in such cases.
I think brownfield, another way, they have not given. What is mean by that?
Sorry?
Brownfield.
So brownfield means acquisition of existing pharma companies for existing units. So if there is a ready-made running Indian business with an Indian unit with Indian licenses, for example the Abod Piramal deal, if it was to happen today, they would require FIPP approval to acquire that. So brownfield means acquiring of existing Indian pharmaceutical company shares or unit, directly or indirectly. In real estate, again, there have been various performance-related conditions, capital locked-in conditions, but we all know the state of the real estate sector. Many of the projects have not been able to get kicked off because of regulatory reasons, because of demand-supply conditions, and there are various non-residents who want to exit the abandoned project. There has been a lot of requests which was placed with the regulator to try and come out with guidelines on how this ought to be achieved. Again, there is an absolute silence from the government for almost close to many years now. Similarly, NBFC minimum capitalization norms. Again, the financial sector is undergoing a turmoil. A few of the players who came in have not been able to satisfy the minimum capitalization norm. As you know, for a 100% subsidiary fund base, 50 million can come in 24 months. And at the end of the 24 months, many people believe that they are not able to bring in that 50 million, or the Indian project has not kicked off. Even if they were to bring in the money will just lie idle over here. So the question that has been asked is whether such kind of rigorous capitalization norms are justified in today's economic scenario. So friends, that's a few sectors. I want to now touch upon a recent discussion paper on e-commerce. It was, I think, released somewhere in January 2014. Actually, it's an 8 or 7 page document and it's a very interesting read. But apparently it seems government wants to now make a case for FDI in B2C e-commerce, and they've given several statistics that e-commerce, B2C e-commerce far exceeds several times B2B e-commerce. Of course, B2B e-commerce is something which is permissible under the automatic route. And they talked about the two model for B2C and B2B e-commerce, which is the marketplace model, which works like an exchange between the buyers and sellers. That means the Indian company with FDI just provides the platform, and the buyers and the sellers are independent people, and that's what Vasha, you mentioned. These are people like this earlier the Bazi.com and eBay.com. They are only platforms. They actually make the buyers and sellers meet. They don't buy and sell, and they only get a commission on the deal. That's it. They just market the products and that's it. So this is a marketplace model. If you are into a marketplace model, it's anyway today also under the automatic route, because you are not neither buying neither selling. You are not holding the inventory. And the model in B2C which requires government approval is the inventory based model. So if the seller wants to keep an inventory and supply to the customer, then it's a B2C model, inventory based model. It needs FIPP approval, which is not being granted currently, and this is not under the policy.
Would Amazon fall in that category?
Sorry?
Amazon.in.
Yeah, no, Amazon. This Amazon is also like a platform. So it will be typically your Flipkarts and all, Myntra, Flipkarts. Some of the Flipkarts deliveries are also dealer based. Some of it could be their own based as well. It's a mixed model. It's a platform come inventory. It's a mixture of both. And this particular discussion papers actually relies on the 80 Kearney retail index, e-commerce index, and it gives examples of several countries like Brazil, Russia, China, and a host of other countries to advocate B2C e-commerce. Now, in today's B2C India scenario, is that there is a lot of lobbying for B2C FDI, by internet, mobile companies, software companies. There is a strong opposition by body of traders. And actually the discussion paper actually goes down the pros and cons in a very fantastic manner, so it's a very good read. It also seeks feedbacks from the stakeholders, in terms of how the government should go about it. Now friends, I have about another 15 minutes to go. I'll very quickly, this is I think my second last slides, things to watch out for. So, RBI is set to remove or regularize the valuation norms. We went through all that DCF. It seems that the RBI is very keen to have this removed shortly. There was an announcement in the monetary policy that these guidelines will be done away with, and the valuation methodology will be as per any acceptable market practice. We need to wait and watch what does this acceptable market practice means and how it will be incorporated in the guidelines. Perhaps this is a step towards capital account convertibility, because if India was to become fully capitalizable 10 years, 20 years down the line, then such kind of pricing norms needs to go. Or is it that the RBI has relied on the transfer pricing guidelines for related party deals, because typically valuation is only relevant, in my view, in related party transaction. In case of third party transaction, technically valuation should never be relevant, because why would somebody pay a higher or lower price unless there is a back-end deal which they are not disclosing, which is like a fraud. And as I said, what is acceptable market practice, we'll have to wait and watch out for. Then friends, of a very, very long time, that I know and have been discussing with RBI and the other officers, there is an absolute strong discussion in the corridor to do away with all this characterization of FDI, NRI, and QFI and all. Soon there will be only two categories, FDI and portfolio. If you are less than 10%, you are portfolio. If you are more than 10%, you are FDI. Like, simple. No other categories, no other distinction. And that's the model that they would like to move to. They have even set up a committee to sort of promulgate this, and I think hopefully this should be on the cards with the new money, with the new government coming in. Perhaps there is a hint of grandfathering for old investment. We'll have to wait and watch as to how. And this is also something which is very, very followed in developing countries like Brazil, South Africa. Many of these countries have this, policy where up to, and I think I'm also told it is a norm as per United Nations or World Bank. Some norms are there where if you are below 10%, you are a portfolio investor. You are more than 10%, you are a strategic investor. Absolutely no questions and no other discussion required. And no other characterization would be relevant. Then there is a possibility of FDI in B2C e-commerce, possibly in a staggered manner, as we've seen some sparks here and there, discussion paper on e-commerce and stuff like that. There could be FDI on cards for certain new sectors like railways, which is possibly could be on cards. There could be some increase in sectoral limits, like in sectors such as insurance. And again, with respect to LLP, there is an aspect which is covered in the policy, which is conversion of company into LLP. But what are the other guidelines and what are the other parameters? For example, what will happen to past profit, past reserves, past other instruments that have been issued? So there is a lot of unclarity on this. I think we need to perhaps wait and watch out as to how the law evolves over here. Friends, with that, I just thought if I have a minute. Okay, I just touch upon direct tax development, perhaps not required actually. Kindly the organizers have removed the direct tax from the heading given to you at least. It was there in the brief given to me. So I'll briefly touch upon some key direct tax things which you need to keep in mind when you are doing inbound list. Now there is an alleged taxation of the Indian investee company with respect to the fair value. And the fair value is being now reworked for transfer pricing officers, the regular officer. And if the issue price is lower than the reworked fair value, then they impute an interest on a notional basis. Well, this is very scary. You would have seen all the names in the paper, big names going to High Court on such a simple matter. Apparently it seems otherwise. Then if the shares have been issued far above the fair value, then the department believes something is wrong and this is in the nature of other income. So that is again, so if the fair value is say 30 and you're issuing at 3,000, they don't believe it's the right thing to have been done and they're trying to tax the differences as other income. In some cases, section 68 has been invoked, saying that this is either unexplained money or unexplained credit or the source is not proved and stuff like that. So what otherwise appeared to be a simple case of issue of shares has now gone into a tremendous complication, and there are several judicial precedents, including one pending before the Bombay High Court. And there are some other points that you need to keep in mind that something, for example, you issue a CCPS. So conversion of CCPS into equity is not tax exempt. So while you may be prompted to issue CCPS in certain scenario, you need to be very careful about the conversion price and the issue price, because it is not tax exempt, and therefore if it is between related parties, you will need to prove that it is at arm's length. That's going to be very challenging, and the law again and the procedure part is not very clear here. And then when this happens, what is the corresponding relief available to the foreign investors on sale of shares? So for example, if there is a reworking of the price, the issue price, I'm not sure that the department will give a correlating adjustment down the line. Then the rate of interest, somebody was mentioning to me earlier, there is no today a benchmark on the rate of interest on CCDs. So how do you benchmark? Do you benchmark the India rates or you take the overseas rate? Again, this has been a subject matter of debate between the taxpayers and the tax authorities, and this perhaps continues, needs some more guidance here. I guess that's it. I've come to the end of my session. I have some time for question and answers. Thank you, friends. I enjoyed speaking here. Thank you so much.
Sir, I have a question on CCP conversion. The Indian company issued the CCP. As on the date of issue of CCP, the terms are agreed. The formula is determined on the conversion of CCP. And I will be working out the valuation as per DCF as on the date of issue of CCP. So accordingly, if I issue the CCP of 100, as per DCF methods and conversion formula, it will be 2 equity shares. And then as on the date of conversion, which will be probably 5 years later, it may happen so that the holding belonging to the foreign exceeds sectoral cap. This may be due to the dilution of equity shares by the local resident. And as on the date actually converted, it may exceed the sectoral cap. So then, would it be advisable to go for FIPB approval if it exceeds on the date of conversion, or that is in line with the FEMA guidelines?
Hello. So I think in a case where there is a sectoral cap and you are putting a conversion, then you need to put in a formula that the price will get revised to fit in the sectoral policy. That's a good enough to have in the initial stage itself. And FIPB will not give you the approval if you are breaching the sectoral policy. There is no point in going to anybody.
So it's going to be kind of a reverse engineering. So that value adds.
You have to have a formula. If you have not built a formula, you have to get that formula first inbuilt, either with RBI consent or approval.
So it would amount to a different formula as on date of conversion.
Yeah, but it will be higher. The price will be higher, so they
Okay.
should be fine with that.
Okay.
Mechanism where a non-resident is transferring shares to a resident of a listed companies off market, that is not by stock exchange. So will you follow SEBI guidelines or
If it is off market, then
DCF?
no, it will be the SEBI guidelines.
SEBI guidelines.
Yeah.
Because it's
So
a
the high
listed
months,
company.
6 months, high low.
6
whatever.
months. It will be because it is a listed company.
Because it's a listed company.
Thank you.
One more question. When we are talking about the sectoral gap, it is essentially a repatriable holding that is to be only considered when we apply the sectoral cap, because shares are issued to the non-resident Indians on NR of, out of, not as a non-repatriable holding. So it will go out of the FDI compliances. So then when I go to part 2, that is the sectoral cap. So what is your view?
Yeah, I think in the sectoral cap only NRIs holding on repatriation basis should be included. There should not be a non-repatriable element which should come. That is at least my view.
So regarding RBI deciding to do away with DCF valuation, does that apply to equity infusion as well?
Yeah, it will apply to everything, issue as well as transfer, because it can be halfway. We'll have to wait and watch. See, it's a generic announcement as of now. The policy actually got missed in the policy. I don't think anybody, at least I also did not read it till I saw it in the press in the other day. Well, it just came innocuously somewhere in between. And so we'll have to wait and watch as to how the law will get developed. But I think they are quite keen. That is at least what I believe as of now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A company having an FIPB approval diversifying into a non or an automatic route, would I still need to go to the FIPB?
No.
I don't.
No.
Sorry, even if I have it in the existing company,
Sorry?
if I continue to have the expansion in the existing company,
Yes,
also,
that's fine.
So in case if we have a partly paid up CCDs, so in that the FCTPR has not been accepted by RBI because they are partly paid up. Pending that, can we convert that to equity?
please can.
Sorry, you said partly paid up
Partly
CCD.
paid
So
up
they could not
CCD.
have been issued without FIPB approval. You have to take FIPB approval post facto,
Right.
contravention,
So in
compounding.
one of the cases we've already done that, but in this case right now they want to convert. So pending that.
No,
FIPB
pending anything you can't convert. You should not convert anything. You should first regularize everything. But is your period also got over for CCD?
Yes. That is right.
Take a bit more, depending on the amount involved. But first you will have to get a regularize. See, unless you take FIPB, the instrument itself is something which is not in accordance with the policy. How could you convert it? That also is a problem.
Sir, would technical violation be adjudicated, or can I go for compounding for the technical violation? For example, I am into SSI sectors and still I am allotting the shares, so it amounts to technical violation, not procedural violation. So would it be open for the...
It is a serious violation.
But would it be this compounding is
They may not allow you. See, cases of conscious contravention, they will not compound. It is not question of technical or non-technical. It is whether it is inadvertent or done with a purpose. If you are doing something with a purpose, they will not compound.
Sir,
If you are doing something with a clear objective of breaking the law, they will not compound. You have to go to enforcement directorate.
Friends, this will be the last question.
Sir, FDI and LLP cannot be made if there is a performance-linked condition. So in construction development, there are performance-linked conditions. But there is an exclusion for education sector, so can I do it?
No, because the sector has performance-based conditions, so the sector itself is excluded. You then cannot go into subsectors.
But sir, it says the conditions does not apply to education sector.
Yeah, but there is a sectoral restriction, so you are not allowed to go into that sector at all. Within that sector, whatever exemption is there will not apply.
Okay.
So because that's the way I would read it. You can't then go into hair splitting or that. Once there are conditionalities in that sector, the sector is excluded.
Okay.
Now my friend Harshal will propose the vote of thanks.
Friends, we all think the session was very excellent. FDI has always been kind of a matrix, there are circulars, master circulars, there are press notes, there are FAQs, there are cabinet notes, exchange and words. Many a times, RBI is also not in sync with what DIPP thinks. So I think Mr. SHABBIR MOTORWALA has demystified all this in a very structural manner. We are thankful to him. He's also brought out many practical issues, Many a times it's better to have a very good relationship with AD rather than fight on the technical content, whether it's allowed, it's not allowed. That will help expedite the matter. And on a lighter note, I always maintain that you can gauge the importance of the speaker from the topic from the importance of the topic also. So FDI is a topic of national interest these days. Even the PM candidate has been asked his views on FDI. So we are thankful to have Mr. SHABBIR MOTORWALA today for this session. And let us please present
Friends, as all you have heard of today's speaker SHABBIR MOTORWALA, and Chamber felt it is better for us to hear him more. So as a golden opportunity, one pay, one free, tomorrow SHABBIR bhai has agreed to be the brain trustee for tomorrow's brain trust session. You wait for 10 minutes for the debate. Thank you.